All right, welcome back to My Mom's Basement. It is Robbie Fox, and I am back with QT Marshall years after your first appearance in My Mom's Basement. You just had a huge match at Full Gear with Big Boom AJ. We know that AJ is leaving that match with a broken foot. Maybe he even came into the match with a broken foot. There's mixed reports out there. How are you doing? Hopefully, no injuries to report.
Nothing. I'm just my pride's a little hurt. I'm not gonna lie. Referee wasn't looking. Big Justice speared me. Talk of the town. It's been everywhere. ESPN, Sports Center. You know, but I'll be okay. I've done worse in my career. So
It has been everywhere. And you guys were even in the office when this thing all kind of started popping off. Where did the entire inception of this come from? I know that you and AJ go back 20 years. When did you find out that he was blowing up on social media with his family?
Sanjay Dutt actually brought him up. We were talking about trying to do something for AEW that could bring new eyes on the company. And one of the things was, okay, obviously WWE's done really well with Logan Paul and stuff like that. So we're like, okay, who could we find but who also has a relationship with wrestling already? And AJ, we saw what he was doing and, I always stayed in touch with him. Not speaking, every day, but we always just stayed in touch and stuff like that. And we share the same, uh, meal prep provider, Eat Clean Bro. Shout out to Jamie. But anyway, so yeah, so I mean, it was one of those things of like, hey, let's just get him to a show and kind of let him do some TikTok stuff and see how that goes. And I mean, he was kind of with the some of the talent that wasn't featured on the pay per view. They were just backstage, and it did really well. And then I wasn't there, but I knew as a wrestler myself that doesn't wrestle, that has the itch to wrestle all the time. I kind of figured maybe I could convince him to do something. So I gave him a call the next day, and it was pretty difficult, but we finally made the deal. And then when we went to Barstool to sign the contract on the way there, a couple days before, I really had this idea that I didn't want to share the spotlight with anybody else. I wanted it all for myself, and so that's kind of where that whole thing came from. And he was gracious enough to power boom me at CCW down in Florida and then challenge me to the one-on-one match. So everything really worked out, I believe, for the best, with the exception of me getting the win. It is unfortunate that he got hurt. I don't know when he got hurt. I mean, I obviously didn't see him before the match at all, so couldn't tell you. But, the fact that he was able to at least finish the match says something that he is a true professional wrestler. I think we could tell by his promos, by the way he promotes himself, just everything about him. He's a pro wrestler through and through. So I think that's really why the fan base, as much as in the beginning, they probably thought this was hokey and this was something that they weren't going to love. From what I've been told, it was one of the things that kind of helped steal the show. So I'm very proud of it. I think it was a great business decision on Tony's part to let us go through with it. And we'll see what happens from here on out. I mean, he said he's spoken to Tony and he's going to be back. So hopefully he doesn't get in my way.
Now, when you're pitching this to Tony, when you're trying to sell this to Tony, hey, I want to do a match against this guy, Big Boom AJ. And it's like, oh, what is he known for? It's like eating cookies at Costco and eating chicken bakes at Costco. Is that a hard sell to Tony? Is that hard to pitch that?
100%. So that's why I always go with like the easiest sell. Well, we're not going to take up TV time. I just need a little bit on the 0 hour free. We're not going to take up pay-per-view time, and we're going to do everything on social media, and we're going to do our best to, that's always been my way. Even back when I was feuding with Danhausen, he always wanted everything on TV, and it was like, hey, let's do it on Dark Elevation. Let's do it on Dark. Let's, make the fans want it on the main show, right? Because any opportunity is an opportunity. So if we can make something good and make people want it, then they're gonna react, and they're gonna tweet at Tony and stuff like that. So I think that was my mindset going into it. I think it was an easy sell. But then I think once AJ really started promoting it and Tony started seeing, the benefits, Jimmy Fallon, stuff like that. I think it was a no-brainer. And I mean, you know as well as I do, we were planning on trying to do the weigh-in at your guys' office. Um, and it was one of those things where Tony was like, hey, maybe we do it on Rampage and see, what kind of number it draws. And it did. I mean, I don't think Rampage's numbers have been the greatest, but it's hard on a Friday night at 10 p.m. Plus, it's our like fifth hour of TV. But we had the highest rated segment, and I believe that has to do with AJ. I'm not going to take the credit for it. I mean, it does take two, but I believe it has to do with AJ and so on and so forth. So, and that's why we did it there. And I thought the story was done really well. I thought Tony was very happy with it, and he really bought in about halfway through.
I was gonna say,
Halfway through
did
the
you
build, I should
feel,
say, not through the match.
yeah, like, did you feel the trust and confidence in this program build as obviously it was gaining all the traction on social media? Everyone posting your Doom rap, the Jimmy Fallon clip, all of these random factors of it are like adding up to like, oh, this is becoming a very talked about thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the biggest thing was, like you said, just getting the trust. I think I always have the trust with Tony when it comes to bell that I'm going to be able to, do what I'm asked to do. But I think the biggest thing was, yeah, trying to, not let the audience go sour on it. That was our biggest thing was like present AJ the way he is, a genuine, professional wrestler that now is a family man and just wants to bring happiness. Present me the way I am, somebody that works backstage as the vice president of the company, but also, is dying to get back in the ring. And it's just a matter of what that opportunity is. And I think this was a very, from what, when Tony and I spoke the next day, it was very like low hanging fruit of, okay, no one's going to get mad at this. No one's going to be upset. No roster member is going to be jealous, because there's not too many people that could probably do the spot that I did. Right. So it's like, okay, let's give it a shot. And then I think, like I said, it definitely exceeded expectations. I believe to the live audience, but also to, I mean, I was never more popular than I was Saturday night after the match was over when it comes to social media, which I hate more than anything. But, because it's our job and we should be doing a great job every time we're out there. And it's just a matter of what kind of position that you're put in. I remember speaking to Tony and it was like when I left last year, there was a lot of stuff that had to do with it, but, some of it was wrestling related and it was just, I feel I could be presented a little bit differently than what I was doing. And I think this really showed it. I think we had the big entrances, all the pomp and circumstance that wrestling was or is. And I think, it really showed a different side of me. Forget bell to bell and how we did the match, but I mean, there was nothing really hokey about the match that I, think is insulting to the audience. And I think that's why the audience was so into it. And there's
Yeah.
something that goes to like, look at the Outrunners. There's something that old school wrestling, I related to LA Knight too. I think people like him because he's a pro wrestler. He's not
Yeah.
pretending to be something. If he's pretending to be anything, it's pretending to be a professional wrestler from the days that we grew up and we love. So I think there's something to that as well. But yeah, like I said, I couldn't be more happy and proud of what we did and what we accomplished. And I know giving AJ that moment with his son and the Rizzler and his whole family, it's something he'll never forget, and especially Big Justice. Although he did just beat Bryce Harper in a home run derby. So maybe maybe he's just continuing to get bigger and bigger. Who knows?
Win streak continues for the Costco Guys. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Big Justice, what a life that kid has.
What a light. So talking about the trust Tony has with you bell to bell, like you talk about there's very few people that can go in and do the job that you did on Saturday night. And I feel like that's because you've never been afraid to know your role as the heel who you don't want to get cheered when you go out there. You want to hear the QT sucks chants. You want to hear, everything like that. When did that get hammered into your brain? Because I feel like so many do fall into the trap of wanting to be the cool bad guy.
It's the way I was brought into the industry. I mean, at the Monster Factory and then training under Bully Ray, it's just the way I was taught. Is like to me, full arena chanting "QT sucks" is the exact same thing as them cheering me because that's what my whole job is just to elicit a reaction from them. So, but at the end of the match, I think we both have to take a step forward in our careers, unless my job is to be an enhancement talent. I'm just a random guy plain pair of trunks. I'm out there. I lose. I roll right out of the ring. It's fine. But I do believe, at the end of every match, what I was taught is one person goes over while the other gets over because the person going over will get over regardless by winning. So it's just that's my mentality is like, nowadays I could probably do cooler things. Like I do I call it the fat osprey, but it's like the handspring enziguri kick, right? So like I do that, but I still get booed. Now, if I did that my first go around at AEW, I would get cheered because the people didn't hate me yet, right? So I was always taught like get them to hate you and you could do anything. Get them to love you and you could do anything, i.e. Stone Cold Steve Austin going out there and just punching and kicking, which was what a heel would do. So it's just like I said, the way I was brought into the industry, and I think Tony saw that. But also like I've never really tried to ever go into business for myself. I've always been very candid about, and very open and honest about what I want and what I'm looking to do and what I'm trying to get out of everything I've ever asked for. And I think that goes a long way as well. There's definitely a ceiling to that in a career. But I think, again, I'm very happy with what I'm able to do and, where I am in professional wrestling. So one of the biggest things I'm not is insecure. I think there's a lot of, athletes that in this industry, it's very difficult for them to, like you said, know your role. For me, it's not, it's what I'm asked to do. And as long as my boss is happy, then I think we're moving forward in the right direction. So in any job I've ever been in, I think that's the biggest key is like, make sure your boss is happy by the end.
And now when you're training potential wrestlers, students of yours, who are the wrestlers you can point to that do that really well in your opinion, where it's, eliciting that reaction from the crowd, whether it be good or bad? Who are the ones that you're constantly being like, oh, if you watch so and so, there you go. For your focus.
Yeah, I mean, so it all depends, I guess, on what time frame we're watching. But I think nowadays, like I look at someone like MJF, and I think he understands if he's going to be, the protagonist or the antagonist, he knows which way to go. Back in the day, I mean, I'm big in like Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels when he was a babyface or a heel, Bret Hart. Like there's so many guys that you could watch and just kind of take a little bit from each one, and it's really about whatever lesson we're trying to teach that day. But again, like going back to, if you're the heel, I don't think it's your job to go into business for yourself and try to get cheered, right? If I'm doing something that makes one fan cheer me, I'm not doing my job, right? That's kind of the way I think about it. And it's like, if I do something where they do cheer or they go, ooh, ah, whatever it is, I have to do something personality wise to make them forget about it right away. And that's the way I teach. And maybe it's a little old school, but I think, like I said, there's something too old school, right? Especially nowadays, what's old is new. And especially when AEW first started, you could see all the older things that we were doing that, people were really into. And all the way to the video game, right? It's like the video game trying to be like No Mercy and revenge and stuff like that. So I think there is something to it. Stick to your guns, and it might not work at first, but ideally, like I said, I don't think I have go away heat. I think a lot of people say that. But to me, go away heat is literally people getting out of the arena and leaving. I think I don't really see too much of that at AEW, but I definitely know, 15,000 people, 10,000 people screaming QT sucks is not go away heat. When I hate a movie, I just get up and walk away or I shut it off. I don't yell at the screen and hope to get a reaction from the actors or actresses, or like a Broadway play. I just get up and leave. So I'm all for it. Like I said, I think the fans don't like me and I'm okay with that. And, like I said, to me, that's the biggest benefit of all is getting them to have that reaction. And then, that you could put me in the ring. You could put me in the ring with anybody and it's going to help them. But also, like those fans are still going to sit there. They might not even know who the other person is, but they are going to sit there and chant QT sucks. So that's a testament to, I think, what the work that I put in over the years.
And when you're training, do you have a favorite lesson to teach? Is that a weird question? I don't know if you like, do you have a favorite thing to teach students?
It's funny. Billy Gunn helps, like we have a night class that we teach as well for the experienced athletes. And every now and then I'll get in there and I'll do like some chain wrestling and he'll just be shocked at like what I could do. And it's like, yeah, to me, it's not one of the things that I never get the 20, 30-minute matches where we have enough time to do all that stuff. So for me, it's more of story related and, a couple little things here and there. But no, I think I'm really big on, I guess in-ring psychology. That's my biggest thing that I love to teach is like the logic of why we're doing things, because this is going to sound really bad, but to the fans that are like diehard fans like myself, and I always say this, you already have my money. I will go to any wrestling show that's nearby. I would rather watch wrestling than anything my wife wants to watch on TV. But how do I get the other person that maybe got dragged to the wrestling show with their friend or it's their first time watching it. It's like anything that to me doesn't make logical sense. I just don't want someone to be like, oh, that couldn't really happen, because I just think you're insulting people. So
Yeah.
I try to go out of my way to not insult anybody, but every now and then you'll have your time and place to do it. And hopefully they suspend their disbelief enough that it doesn't go against you. But it's just one of my things I've always wanted to, you know, it's I used to joke, it's bad enough I'm already in my underwear all oiled up and doing all the other things I have to do. So, no sense in trying to, really embarrass myself or insult the people that are giving their hard-earned money to watch.
And then what about pet peeves as a trainer? Do you have things that students do that are immediately you're like, oh my God, this is a big wrestling pet peeve?
Yeah. When they yell, it's over, and then it's not over. It's like in the match when it's over and then they don't finish the match. And that's just their way of teasing the audience to elicit that reaction. The problem is that, most of the time they're in front of the crowd for the first time. So that's why they have to yell it's over, because if they signal whatever their hand signal is for their finishing maneuver, the crowd's not going to know what it is, right? So I think, that it's a huge pet peeve, but I understand why they do it. And like I said, there's like these little things that I think, clapping for yourself, when the match starts as a baby face. I mean, just think of the guy that, gets up to bat, and as he's getting announced, or as he gets to the plate, he just starts clapping for himself. Like you would want to hate that guy, right? So there's a couple of independent pet peeves that I have. But again, I always tell everybody, like, these are just my opinions. That doesn't mean they're right. It's your wrestling that you want to create, your art, I guess you could say. I just try to think, like I said, logically. Like, if I give one fan a reason to hate me, if my job is to be loved, I'm not doing my job all the way, right? So, and you never know what kind of influence that person has on the audience, right? They might turn around and say, hey, heck with this guy, heck with this guy. And then the whole crowd starts booing you. So there's just a lot of things that, like I said, to me, they're pet peeves, but at the end of the day, I tell everybody from the moment they start at wrestling school is like, hey, this is my opinion. I have been taught by some people that have made a lot of money. So if that means anything, okay. But at the end of the day, you're going to do whatever you want to do, and you have to try it on your own, because there's stuff that I think maybe would never do well, and then it does great. So again, it's knowing your audience too. And that just comes from learning it, like by doing it and going out there and wrestling. You can have a wrestling school that can try to teach you, but you have to go out and you have to wrestle. It's just one of the things that people, I don't think, realize anymore, but like, you just have to do it. You have to get in front of as many people as you can from as many areas as you can and really see what people like and what works and what doesn't.
And then speaking purely as a wrestling trainer, I know you and Big Boom AJ didn't always get along, but there was a lot of chatter online about how amazing his punches. And I was wondering, just speaking as a wrestling trainer, what did you think of the strikes that Big Boom AJ was throwing?
They hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were there. I mean, they were solid. They looked great. Yeah, I think he did a really good job. Like I said, I think maybe that was one of the things he was always really good at. I was a little offended. I didn't throw too many punches in the match, but I have a really good punch. To the point where, like, a lot of people put my punches over. So, but I only threw a couple. But yeah, I mean, he did a great job. Like I said, I mean, everything he did looked. I mean, he's a wrestler, right? So it's like, I think we were very careful about what we did and how we did stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's a wrestler, and he proved it that night. And I think that's the reason, I don't want to compare wrestling to magic so much, but if your big trick at the end is pulling the rabbit out of the hat or whatever it is, but the whole way you get to that trick, that part, you're fumbling and you're messing things up. By the time you hit that end, the people aren't going to be connected. And I think we did a really good job of keeping everybody connected until the end. And that's the biggest testament to what we did. And I think you can tell by like I said, I mean, people were saying, give QT his flowers and all these other things, and that's great. I love it. But at the end of the day, too, the live audience will tell you everything you need to know. And I think we were very fortunate that we had a great live audience in New Jersey that night. They were into everything that we did. And, it really made a huge difference in the match. And I think it'll go down as one of the best pre-show matches of all time. I mean, it has its own video right now, and it's up to 400,000 views. That's
Yeah.
more than some pre-shows. You know what I mean? So that's a real testament to the
Counting all the like I lost Twitter that night and Instagram
right.
and that, like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's just a testament to the following that AJ has, and anyone that thought, that the boom wasn't real. I mean, it really is. They're
Yeah.
just. I think they're just going to continue to grow, and I think it's great if he did have a talk with Tony, and they're going to stay a part of the AEW family. I think it'll be really cool to see what else he can do.
Who do you think the funniest wrestler backstage at AEW is?
Man, besides myself,
Besides yourself. Yeah.
yeah, besides myself, Mark Sterling's pretty good.
Yeah.
He pops me a lot. Yeah. It's hard nowadays to talk to as many as I used to, just because I think we're so busy and my job is really taking a lot out of me to the point where I got to stay in the office sometimes. But RD Evans is another one, and I think, as you could tell, because he's a creative person, he's pretty entertaining as well. But yeah, I would say Mark Sterling is probably the sleeper of everybody. The one that you wouldn't expect, and he just, every time I talk to him, there's something that pops me in. And then of course RJ City, but again, he's a creative person, he's a writer, and all these things, so he needs to be funny.
What about the person that has shared the most wisdom with you?
Oof, he's gonna kill me for saying this. Taz, I think
Oh
Taz
yeah.
is probably shared. Besides Billy, I mean, Billy and I, we ride together everywhere. So because he lives right down the street from me, so we go to the airport together, we travel together, we stay in the same hotels. So you know, Billy, Cody, of course, but he's not in the locker room anymore. And then I think Taz. I mean, we probably speak more than a lot of people, to the point where my wife is always like, "Man, you're still talking to Taz." But I mean, I think because of the type of person that I am and what I bring to the table, from what he tells me, not being insecure and being one of the real people in the professional wrestling world, he's always trying to teach me things, and it's, again, these are people that I grew up, kind of emulate, watching, and hoping to have the success that they had. So, I always feel like, why not try to ask as many questions as possible and let them know if I'm bothering you, let me know. But in the meantime, if the education is here to take, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. One last question for you. What is next for QT Marshall? What is next for AEW? We're hearing a lot about Big Boom AJ coming back. Like you said, he had that talk with Tony. Could this be a Rocky and Apollo situation where we'd see you guys team up, or is it not finished between you guys?
I don't know. I mean, the original thing was supposed to be a tag match. I don't know if I could really forgive him after what Big Justice. I think Big Justice would have to apologize to me first, and that's going to be a hard pill for him to swallow. Next for me, I don't know. I was speaking with Tony. I think I'm onto something with the whole Doom thing. I hate the fact that it was, just copying what he has, but also, or being the bizarro world against what he had. But at the end of the day, like, I think that whole presentation might have clicked a little bit for the myself, but also for the audience. And I kind of felt like I was in my own. So maybe we'll stick to that. I don't know. I still don't even have a wrestling contract. So I'm not sure. I'd love to wrestle once in a while, as long as it doesn't take away from the backstage role. Um, but yeah, I mean, if it were up to me, maybe I'd wrestle a little bit more. I'd love a rematch somewhere down the line. I don't know if we're going to be able to create the same magic, but
Some kind of
I do
like blood
think,
and guts up the stakes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, who knows? It's hard because of all his sponsorships. I don't know what he, I
Yeah.
don't know if he's laying there in the pool of his own blood, if, anyone's going to be okay with that. Unless I wipe his face with a dude wipe or something like that.
Blood and cookies.
But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I don't know, but yeah, I think there could be a rematch down the line. Like I said, I'd love to. I'm in the best shape of my life. I think people saw that the other night. Not being on TV for over a year really helped out a lot. It was like you went away, you came back a lot differently. And I think there's something to that. So again, I don't want to count the eggs before they hatch, but hopefully there's something there. And now I think I had the match that I knew I could have. I think the fans knew I could have that style of a match. I'd love to have a match that they don't think I could have, right? Like the Osprey style match that I
Yeah.
do on the independents. When I'm on the indies, I do that stuff. But again, my job on the indies is to tear the house down and steal the show. It's not to get, booed out of the building. So if there's a moment for me to have that kind of match, that would be really cool and exciting for me, because I think that would really turn some heads. And I mean, all the matches that I had in AEW that I thought were like really good, they were always on dark. So they were never on the main, TV show to really kind of, but anytime I had a match over 10 minutes, with the exception of maybe the one with CM Punk where I knew what my role was, I really went out there and I thought I always did a great job, and people always, were very supportive of what I did and complimentary of what I did. So who knows? We'll see. Like I said, take it one day at a time. I'm still enjoying, what happened last weekend, and so we'll see. I think I still got to talk to Tony and see what he has in mind. And I'm hoping that I don't have to go to him and pitch anything. I think it'd be great if he came to me and said like, hey, you know what? I think X, Y, and Z. That would be really cool. But, with the roster that we have and the great talent that we have, and I'm not holding my breath. So we'll see.
All right. Well, my fingers are crossed for it. I think it would be great. I would love to see it myself. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the time.
You got it, Robbie. Thank you so much. I had a great time.